We are here in the Health Bureau of Hong Kong with our special guest, an exclusive interview with Lo Chung-mau. He is the Health Secretary of Hong Kong. Thank you so much for giving us this interview in a very interesting time for Hong Kong. Obviously, we've gone in staged relaxations of the COVID curbs, and the hotel quarantines have been scrapped, as Rich just said, to be replaced by 0 days quarantine plus 3 days of self-monitoring, if you will. Plus, I might add, many tests. Obviously, people here in Hong Kong, they want more relaxation. Why is it you cannot give the Hong Kong people more of a roadmap on what is required? What are the criteria so we can get to full relaxation?
As you can see, Hong Kong has been implementing quite a number of measures in terms of getting our connection back to the international arena. Now, starting from the removal of the suspension of the circuit breaker for these international flights, and also switching from 7-day hotel quarantine to 3+4, and then now 0+3. And if you look at the whole process, I think we are working faster than what other people expect. Now, when we announced, it was the gap, the interval from announcement to implementation is the first time is 4 days, and this time from 3+4 to 0+3 is only 2 days. But you look at other countries, a lot of time, there's a long interval from announcement to implementation. I think Japan has announced something. By mid-October, they will be removing something. And you seem to like it very much and said that Japan has already opened up. Well, on the other hand,
Japan's going to go on par with the United States. We know that Singapore has opened up since last March. We know that these are competitors, regional competitors, and that is the main argument. And our main constituents who are watching right now tend to be in the banking community, and they need that assurance that Hong Kong will remain viable. How, as Health Secretary, do you balance? Because you've been quite hawkish, if you want to call it that. You've been against the further opening up. What changed your tune?
I don't think I'm the one who is against further opening up. I'm the one who's gauging the healthcare issue with the need for opening up. I never oppose. Personally, I like to open up. There's no reason why I don't want to open up. For the benefit of Hong Kong, I'm a Hong Kong citizen as well, and I know Hong Kong is a very international city. Particularly important is that we are the gateway for our motherland. And we have always emphasized Beijing has always emphasized that Hong Kong is not one country, two system. We have to maintain this, and we have to continue to become a gateway. If we want to be a gateway, we have to connect between mainland and the international world. And if we cannot connect to the rest of the world, how can we serve as a gateway? So there's no reason we are not opening up. But we have to do it cautiously, safely, and smoothly.
What's holding us back, though? Because the virus situation right now is fairly tame, relatively speaking, compared to the fifth wave the early part of this year. I believe there's only about 13 cases in ICU right now. And I know that's 13 too many, but still, is there a best-case scenario that we could see by the end of this year if things remain relatively stable like this?
Again, I go back from the July 1st. We have been opening up faster than people expect. When people were expecting from 7+0 to 5 days hotel quarantine, we moved to 3. And we announced, and then 4 days later, we implement. And from the 12th of August, which is the 3+4 policy started, and to now the 0+3, is slightly more than a month. And there's only 2 days of gap between the announcement. And people were expecting that we will be doing perhaps 0+7.
Sure.
But we do it to 0.3.
It was better than expected. But do you see a scenario?
Better and faster.
This is what everybody wants to know. Do you see, as the Health Secretary, a scenario where you can go 0+0? Even Regina Ip, the convener of the Executive Council, says it's possible by October. Others want it by November, when you have the banking summit and the rugby sevens. Is it possible this year?
If it's possible today, I won't wait till tomorrow.
So it's not possible today. Why?
No, we are looking at the data. We have just changed to 0+3. Remember, when we put up the 0+3, it's actually better than people's expectation. They are expecting 0+7, okay? So why are you expecting 0+7 4 days ago, early this week?
Sure.
or last week. But now suddenly you think that 0 + 3, 0 works. So we have to be based on data. We look at it, and right now, I think still the international, the global pandemic is still evolving. Now we're coming to see the light at the end of the tunnel, that the severity of disease is getting less, the number of infections is getting less, and we understand different countries, different regions are opening up, moving. But I must emphasize that COVID is like it's a disease for the whole world, the global village. Every country has got sick. We know in 2020, every country in the world, they are going through this lockdown. Many countries has locked down, stop travel. We learn, and slowly we see how to treat this disease.
Slowly, this is the issue. The rest of the world has opened up except for China. Are you more concerned with maybe Hong Kong being blamed for any leakage into mainland, which is still adhering to extremely strict zero COVID policy?
No, we are not adopting a very strict COVID policy. We are evolving. But I must emphasize that we are part of China. And this is our obligation to make sure that we won't cause a major outbreak in the rest of China. We are doing this, and I always emphasize, the present government has always emphasized there's no conflict between opening to the international world and the connection with our motherland. We must do that. If Hong Kong has no connection with China, our status will be seriously compromised. But we are different from Singapore.
Is the main criteria, though, for going to 0 + 0, China relaxing? I mean, there's been a lot of expectations that perhaps after the Party Congress or even in the spring that China, it won't be until the spring, that China relaxes. They have to at some point because of the economy and because of the pressures, obviously. But when the political tension is somewhat removed after the Party Congress and China perhaps relaxes its COVID-0, is that the essential precursor for Hong Kong to relax further?
It is one of the things that we have to consider. Now, we have to consider, for example, we are considering other countries opening up, right? That's why we also, our anti-COVID policy evolve. Why do you say that we cannot consider the situation in China when we consider the overall anti-COVID policy, right? I don't think Hong Kong can just look at the international scene and follow the rest of the world. We have to consider the other thing, the other side of the story. Our motherland, I put this analogy that our motherland is like our family, and the rest of the world is my career. I have career, but I also have my family. So my family, I have to consider, my family, not just, my family has given me great support. Remember in the early this year when Hong Kong has get into a huge wave of the Omicron, when our healthcare system is in trouble, and we have wonderful support from our motherland. But we have to recognize that.
Are you worrying too much about the possibility of future variants? So, which is essentially, that's not a sure thing. The pace of the virus's prevalence in society is going down. But it seems as though those buffers are keeping in place because you're worried about new variants this winter.
Never too much. We must be prepared for a future variant. We know that these viruses, they evolve. And even for influenza, we know. Influenza has been with us for over 100 years now. And even influenza, every now and then, we have a new variant coming up, the avian flu, the swine flu. Well, if it comes, we have to be prepared. So, but of course, we shouldn't be overdoing this, right? But I'm saying, very important thing, it's like treating disease. We have to have individualized medicine. And that is why we have individualized anti-COVID strategy. Every country, every region, every city has to consider its own situation. Hong Kong has a major wave early this year. And we do suffer a lot in terms of the health and life of the people.
Are you doing the kind of genetic sequencing of all positive cases that will give you any kind of, or do you have any kind of evidence that other variants are coming in or that will be a difficult winter?
In fact, indeed, we are doing that. And it's one of the reasons that we're still doing testing for our inbound travelers. And right now we know it's the BA.5, but we know there are other variants coming up in the rest of the world. So as a responsible healthcare bureau, we have to make sure that we won't have this potential risk as we face the winter surge challenge.
Now, can you give me any update on negotiations or talks with the mainland about what John Lee, the chief executive, has proposed, and that it's a reverse quarantine, where those who want to go into China would quarantine here first before going across the mainland? Do you have any update?
That's not a negotiation. I don't like the word negotiation.
What is it?
It's a collaboration. We try to collaborate to facilitate the people movement across the border, right? We know China, mainland, our motherland, has its own anti-COVID strategy. And this is the beauty of the one country, two system. We have the same direction. We want to make sure that we protect our people's health and life. But on the other hand, we know that Hong Kong is different in the sense it's an international city. The people's habit, culture, the healthcare system is different. And our vaccination rate, for example, is a little bit different. Now, so we are moving on. We are having different meetings to make sure that we can follow the quarantine requirement for China. We know it's still 7+3. So we have to adopt the same kind of approach. For example, the closed loop arrangement for all the staff. Yeah. How are we going to move these people after quarantine in Hong Kong across the border? So we are considering whether we have a separate cross-border apart from the Shenzhen Bay. So these are details, but I must say we are having a very good discussion on how to work together for this.
Any timeline?
As far as possible. As I said,
fast as possible.
No, if it can be done today, I won't wait till tomorrow.
All right, Dr. Lo Chung-mau, I ran out of time. I was going to get to a number of issues. Hopefully, we will talk to you again when Hong Kong relaxes further.
Look forward.
Because you're not going to roll back, right?
Not if there is no more new variant. We have to be prepared. Emerging disease may come anytime. The whole world has to be prepared.
All right. Well,
but not with the present Omicron.
We'll have to do some convincing to get all those bankers to come to the banking summit November 1st. 12 COVID tests. 12 COVID tests and no restaurants or bars for 3 days. So it's going to be a tough sell. But thank you so much, Dr. Lo Chung-mau, for joining us.